Now, at 9 o'clock, if you ring at 9 o'clock, she will have my phone, and she can find just a little quiet corner to talk about debt solutions, possible solutions that people might be. She's got her notes in her hand. All that, and
Okay.
I have got little bits in the middle. That
So you're going to link them a kind of...
Yes, I'll just keep talking until the next person's
So,
ready.
but presumably it would be best if we kind of came over here. Out of shot? No?
Well, it has to be the way it is. The idea being that this is a very small, select gathering, but we are trying to make it look as if there are more people. Sorry, Bob, you weren't listening. Front, middle. Front, middle. No, middle. Thank you. I can boss him around, you see. Yeah, exactly. Front and middle. Okay. Now. So, yeah, can we have them in the right order? So, can I just swap you on?
Nope. Let me move my jacket out the way, Yvonne.
Nice to meet you, Yvonne, by the way. I'm Craig from the Money Advice Service.
Are we doing the broadcast on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? No. Oh.
Sorry, folks, this might be a bit pedantic. Can we swap you around in order so that you're at that end?
I thought that's what you were going to say. Just
Sure.
Otherwise, I'll become very obvious running in and swapping every time the person preceding is.
I'll tip it down. No, I'm fine. Are you going to park yourself up front, please? Yes. And front, middle. Okay. All right. We'll start when the crew's ready, but thank you all very much for coming. I'll do all this bit again anyway. It really is quite good to see people coming at this time of the morning. We always meant to keep this a small select gathering. I think we're still missing a few. Eric, where are you going? Middle. He tried. Yes, your breakfast being broadcast to the world, yes, because it could be anywhere in the universe. In fact, Peter Tutton, I think you're going to have to come forward. Helen. Helen.
You get the tallest people on the front row.
Well, that, I know that's a bit of a mistake. Never mind. No. Oh, the opportunity to boss people about is brilliant. Sheila's looking terribly. Sheila's looking like, oh my God, I better not move or she'll tell me what to do next as well. Oh dear, everybody else has. So, yes, we're going to go live streaming in, yeah, you ready anytime? Okay. Go on, do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 bit. 5, 4, 3. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's really, really good of you to come get out of bed as early as you have obviously done in order to get here on time. So thank you very much indeed. And thank you also to the people who are joining us from other parts of the UK. I know that Money Advice Scotland is hopefully linked in. So good morning, Money Advice Scotland, if you're there. And also good morning, I think, to CAP as well. They were planning to join us. A few other people have said that they will be watching at home, but I can't name individuals. So thank you very much indeed. And also right at the outset, I'd just like to say thank you very much to everybody who's been involved in setting up this event, particularly to the Money Advice Service, because they've lent us this room, they've provided breakfast, and they've also given us Bally, without whom this would not have happened. So thank you very, very much indeed, everyone involved. Yvonne McDermott, the Chief Executive of Money Advice Scotland, really kicked all of this off. She listened to Nick Lord's pleas and fears over pension freedom and auto-enrolment and the repayment of debt, and she did something about it. So Yvonne, thank you. And at Money Advice Scotland, at their conference in 2016, the issue was discussed and a roundtable was set up later that year. In London then, in October 2016, Nick explained the issues to a meeting of MALG members, the Money Advice Liaison Group, and we considered the issues from the perspective of the consumers and the firms. Then Malg and Money Advice Scotland got together to hold a round table here in the Money Advice Service on the 10th of October last year. It was chaired by Chris Pond, who is here this morning too. And we brought a wider group together to discuss a way forward. Many of those people are with us, so again, thank you for that. And it was decided that Nick Lord should write a report to stimulate further discussion and consider a direction of travel. The proposal was then put to and accepted by the Money Advice Service, and they funded the report. Following great collaboration, it has to be said, and Michelle Cracknell at the Pensions Advisory Service should be mentioned, as well as several others. Meg from the Money Advice Trust were really helpful. Nick Pearson, I think, as well, really helpful to Nick in putting the report together. And today the report is launched. It's available on all 3 websites. So it's available on the Money Advice Scotland website, the MALG website, and the Money Advice Service website. There's no hard copy. Sorry, Peter. There's no hard copy. So take down the link, ponder, cogitate, share, and come back to us with your ideas as to what next. That's what we would like to happen. We're streaming the event live onto the Money Advice Service YouTube channel, so you will be able to see and catch up. And a little bit of light viewing before you go to bed tonight. It'll send you to sleep. No, it won't. It's riveting. Anyway, so if you don't want to appear on film, you guys, we're only filming the back of your head at the moment, but if you don't want to appear, then please just keep moving away from the camera. Nick's going to tell you about the report. We'll hear from the MP, Yvonne Vervaarge, who's been a great supporter of the sector's work. Yvonne, we're really grateful for that. From Craig Simmons of Money Advice Service, and then with a few thoughts about what next, and Yvonne McDermott, who will have the last word. So I'm going to hand you over to Nick Lord, author of the report.
Liz, thank you, and colleagues, good morning. It has been quite a while in actually releasing the report for various reasons, but first and foremost, I do hope it will be of genuine help to the advice sector and to creditors as a working document in actually setting out what the challenges are in doing the right thing by consumers. And some very difficult questions for both, I think, advisors and creditors to answer, but I'm absolutely convinced they're questions that need to be addressed in order for consumers to receive the information and guidance and advice that they need. It also, the paper, addresses the regulatory conundrum. So clearly what we now have is an obligation upon MALG members, whether they be advisors or whether they be creditors, to do the right thing by creditors, something they obviously would want to do anyway. But also we've reached the situation with regard to regulation where actually trying to do the right thing by consumers is challenging. And it potentially takes advisors and creditors perhaps into areas where they potentially may be in breach of regulation. And I think that's quite a challenge. I think one of the interesting things for me, Yvonne, when we talked about it at your conference and then at subsequent conferences, was how there was quite a steep learning curve with regard to some within the advice sector about the regulation and the obligations that were put on them. And I rather hope that, and this I think is where MALG is such a magnificent example, I rather hope that it is a challenge and perhaps an opportunity for the advice sector and the credit industry to come together and to explain to the regulator what the challenges are and to actually come up with constructive suggestions as to what could usefully be put in place to genuinely meet the best interests of consumers. But it has to be constructive. There's no point trying to throw bricks through windows in order to force regulatory change. And of course it is. I'm aware that some of the people here I've had conversations with over many years with regard to generic financial advice and financial capability. I'm told I'm no longer allowed to say generic financial advice. Apparently it's now guidance. I have to say, being blunt, I think consumers couldn't care less whether it was generic financial advice or guidance. And of course what this is an extension of that whole debate that Yvonne, Peter, Joanne, I think we were having 20 years ago, and we're still having the same kind of debate. And hopefully this is another example of being able to move forward. It started with pension freedom, because that was the original basis for the paper, with me seeing how the introduction of pension freedoms actually made an impact upon the work that I was doing, and how that I was going to have to do better as a money advisor in order to provide my clients with the information and guidance and advice they needed. And actually, in writing the report, one of the things which has come home to me is pension freedom is still important and still a heck of a challenge, but clearly that only impacts upon people of a certain age. Arguably, when you've got anybody who's over the age of 50 now, if you're working as a MALG member, you need to consider that. But automatic enrolment. The known that by 2009, those people into automatic enrolment will be paying 5% rather than 1%. We have to take that into account. The report, I think, is an excellent example of collaborative working. And the one thing which has really heartened me here has been the way in which the debt advice sector and the credit industry has come together in order to commission the report and hopefully take away the challenges with the ultimate intention of doing the right thing by consumers. I wish you all the very best with regard to how it's going to work in future, and I look forward to seeing the progress.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. And I wonder if anybody has got any questions for Nick. There is a lot of detail in the report. I'm assuming that you haven't yet read it because it hasn't gone on the website. Well, it should have gone on the website of podcast 8, so you won't have an opportunity. So if you have any questions, then please, next year. All right, I've got my mic.
Have you out?
Nobody with any? Joanna, you're looking.
Well, I don't know what it says, so
No.
to ask a question.
Yes, but yes, I do realise that. But you might want to ask a question about what is actually some of the recommendations in
What's
the
the
report.
recommendations in the report? Flavour.
Joanna, I'm so pleased you asked that question.
I was going to have to ask this.
That's right. No coercion at all. There are various challenges. In particular, I think the biggest recommendation is, I'm afraid, the advice sector and MALG members need to consider this and need to put in place the practices, the training, the policy, which will ensure that not only can you keep within the regulatory responsibilities, but do genuinely the best things by consumers who are affected by pension freedom and automatic enrolment. So if there was one headline one, that would be the one that I would point out.
So could you give us an example of the change that you would need? So if you're an advisor, what would be the different advice you'd be giving? Just a flavour of that.
Well, I mean, I don't think, first of all, there's one size fits all. The report sets out that there may be different ways that debt advisors, for example, may wish to provide or facilitate the provision of guidance, advice on pensions. There may be some within the advice sector, I think very rarely, who may want to go down the regulatory route and that they may wish to have regulated financial advice within their advice environment. There may be others who would say, we don't want to go there. We don't think it's the right thing to do, but in which case we need to ensure that our consumers do have access to that information. Now, in which case, who can we provide them onto? Can we provide them with a link, for example, to a financial advisor? But if we're going to do that, how on earth is the consumer going to pay for the financial advice? Might it be possible to make use of some of the other guidance services which are already in place? Alternatively, do we just, and I hope you wouldn't come to this conclusion, but it's one possibility, do we just say to the regulator, this is too difficult. We cannot do the best by our clients under the current regime. And I'd rather hope that would then come back with the constructive suggestion with regard to, and this is what we think you need to do in order to help us to meet those needs.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Nick. It's good to get a flavour. Thank you, Joanna, for asking my question for me. So, as Nick says, there are challenges set out by the paper, and it would be easier to address these if there were discussion and agreement on it. But let's get the discussion started, I think, is what I would appeal for at this point. There will be on the MALG website anyway a comments trail so that we can, as people read it, hopefully they will add their suggestions to that trail, and let's get at least an online discussion going, and then we can take it from there. So let me hand over to Yvonne Vervarga MP, Shadow Minister for Communities and Local Government and Chair of the Debt and Personal Finance APPG. Yvonne. Oops.
Thank you very much, Liz. Pension freedom, as the name suggests, offers more choice in accessing pension saving. But as often the case with these things, it comes with other consequences. Most importantly, pension savings are meant to provide an income in later life. Consumers who use these savings before the retirement obviously won't have them for the use in the later life. And I was really interested in this paper, and I have read it. Some of the points, such as those, are fairly obvious. The point that younger consumers face the challenges in choosing between pension saving, debt repayment, those reaching the age of 55 and eligible to use pension freedom may need more help in determining how their financial and personal future will be affected by the tax issues. Do they take more money and pay tax on it? Or do they use their pension savings to repay debt? And what happens to their benefits if they do that as well? There's actually a lack of information and guidance for consumers concerned about how they will be able to afford to make contributions into their auto-enrolment pension. And for me, the discussion of the impact of auto-enrolment on the amount available for repaying debt and the impact increasing in auto-enrolment contributions will have on the ability to deal with debt is really enlightening. And it's really important because contributions are set to increase, and we know that personal debt is also increasing. And the paper also addresses how the pension changes will impact on the debt advisors, the creditors and the debt collection companies. And as someone who worked for a Citizens Advice Bureau for a number of years, I'm particularly interested in this and the impact of how holistic advice is changing. What is holistic advice for someone over 55 and under 55, and how different is that? There's a lot of food for thought in this report, and I really welcome it. And I urge anyone who's involved in lending, collecting, advising or guiding consumers and clients to read it and understand, because these issues will affect your job. The recommendations for change will need further consideration, and I will be interested in the further developments because I think it will affect the whole issue of financial inclusion in the future. I congratulate everyone for bringing the issues into Start Relief. They're set out very clearly, and the collaboration across the sector has been an example to everyone. And let's get things done. Hopefully, this paper, I'm sure it will be a valuable contribution for future discussions, and I'm pretty sure we will be back here soon with other recommendations as well for change. Let's hope the government listen too.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Yes, let's hope everybody who reads it does contribute, because I think that this will therefore hopefully just be the start. So Craig Simmons of the Money Advice Service, to whom I am very grateful for all the support that you've given us. You personally have really helped to push this forward, and thank you very much for putting up with all my constant nagging. Working with the Money Advice Service has been great, so I'd like to just give you the chance to voice your take on the report.
Thank you, Liz, and good morning, everyone. I know all you may not know me. I'm Craig Simmons, and I'm the Acting Head of Debt Advice here at the Money Advice Service. And I'd like to start with both a thanks and a congratulations to Money Advice Scotland, the Money Advice Liaison Group, and particularly to Nick Lord for this piece of work, which I really does think move the discussion forward in this area. I don't think anyone in the room or online would disagree with me when I say how important pension savings and debt advice can be, not just for individuals, creditors and debt advice agencies, but actually for broader society. So this report, by shining a light on where advice may not be working as well as it may do for consumers, it's absolutely the right thing to do, and it's vitally important that we actually do something about it and move things forward in this area. So in terms of next step, the first one, of course, is for us all to read it and then bring back feedback and thoughts to us and to everyone involved in this piece of work. I'll pull out two next steps. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll pull out two next steps which I think we should all reflect on and think about. The first one, hopefully quite a short-term action, and it's one I would say particularly to debt advice agencies. The report highlights a very real risk of overstepping the regulatory boundary from debt advice into regulated advice. And I think in these days of claims management firms or debt advice agencies now are captured by the Financial Ombudsman Scheme, we need to make sure that that risk is protected against and there is adequate protection there. So that is an action I would suggest debt advice agencies do take away. The other next step is more long-term next step. It's more for people like myself, for my organisation, the Money Advice Service, and the broader sector at large, actually. We need to get to a stage where we can have truly holistic advice, truly joined-up advice for people when they do come forward with sometimes complex problems, with problems that cut across two regulatory disciplines. And we need to make sure we can serve them. Because for me, I think issues around this will get bigger before they get smaller. So there's a few things for us to take away, certainly. And I think it's not a simple case. I've heard during sort of the workings of this, there's been various working groups, some suggestions which I don't think will tackle things by themselves. The suggestion, of course, that clients maybe should never use pension savings to pay down debts, or auto-enrolment should always be allowed to happen. And I think that is perhaps a bit too of a blunt tool to say that. I think for a small number of consumers, actually using pension savings to pay down debt may be the right thing to do. Not in many cases, but it's something we have to make sure is an option available to clients when it's in their best interests. The other one's been about the need for the regulator to provide more guidance in this space, and whilst I think that may be helpful, I don't think it will be the thing that solves this issue. I think we need more innovation, be that greater use of existing technology, or probably more greater partnership working actually to get people the advice they need. We need to look at how we can be more innovative. So in the interest of time, I'll stop there. I know you want some Q&A as well, Liz, so I'll stop there. But I do encourage everyone to read the report, and I'll just thank everyone again involved for a great piece of work. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. And let's go back to where it all started, to Yvonne McDermott, the woman who kicked all of this off. Yvonne, thank you very much indeed for bringing this, highlighting this issue with Nick, and the last word belongs to you.
Thank you very much, Liz, and good morning, Scotland. I'm hoping you're tuned in. I understand that they had a countdown meter going, so hopefully you're there. So hello to you all. Thank you so much, Liz, but thank you everybody else as well for the tremendous support and enthusiasm, energy, and of course for the funding of the report from Money Advice Service. We really are grateful to you for that. I think it's one of these situations where you feel you've been taken seriously. We know there's a problem to fix, and now we have some suggestions, some recommendations, some solutions, we think, for that. But I think I just want to touch on two things. Collaboration and coordination, I think, are really important. I know, Yvonne, you talked about collaboration in your speech. I think we need to collaborate, and hopefully this shows that we can do it, but we now need to put this into action. We need to do something with this. It's not going to be enough just for it to be a really nice document. We need to take the action and move it forward. And I think part of that collaboration is going to be actually in the training of the advisors, because I can see it in my head just now where this fits in the Wiser Advisor programme. I can see just exactly where it would sit, but also there's so much information there already. There's all the work the Money Advice Service has done on the money guidance. So I think let's collaborate, let's get all of that together, because we shouldn't be starting with a fresh slate here. I think we can actually look at what's there, pull it together, and then get the sector actually much better informed. It was mentioned earlier, I think our sector is quite blind to the perimeter in many instances. I don't even think they know it exists. Where people do know about it, they think, oh, that doesn't actually apply to me. That's not about me. Whereas, in fact, it truly is. So I think even if we were to do some scoping, look at and give more examples, guidance, of course, would be really, really helpful. It's a start. You're right, Craig. It's not, it's in and of itself. We're not going to solve this overnight, but I think we do have an opportunity here. So I think collaboration between us is really important, and coordination. I want us to avoid duplication. I don't want us all to be running off doing various courses. I want it all to come through one source, and that way we can roll it out. We can use technology much better. We can think of ways that we can get more people together. Sessions like this, in fact, more webinars, that type of thing. So I think there's a way that we can move this forward, but we need, obviously, the resources behind it. So I guess I'm appealing for those resources to let us take this really, really valuable piece of work. And I can't say thank you enough, Nick, because I think it's a very thoughtful, insightful piece of work, which I think will help lead the charge going forward. So coordination, collaboration. So I want us back here, somewhere else, that we can actually take action. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. And that's it. It's all over, bar the reading. So please do go on one of the 3 websites, have a look, and let us have your thoughts on the report. And if you're online, that call goes to you too. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Big round of applause for our speakers. Do have breakfast. Sorry. Money Advice Scotland, CAP, anybody else who's watching, that bit we can't do for you. So hopefully you'll find yourself a cup of coffee and a croissant wherever you are. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.